Welcome to Pandora's Box, starring Drew Jameson Ben Armstrong as Drewster and of course, the mayor of Winkletown himself, Nathaniel Warren as young Bullwinkle. And finally, Calum Waite as Obadiah Pennywhistle.
Pandora's box is about to open wide.
Pandora's box is here again. Welcome all. Whether you are listening to us on AWNSR.
Oh yeah.
Or Spotify. Or YouTube.
Whoop, whoop.
Or just however. Which way are you most excited for, Drew?
Spotify.
And you, Bullwinkle?
YouTube.
Yeah.
YouTube.
I feel like I should sort of just say AWNSR now, just to like balance it out. But I think I'm Spotify as well.
I just love the fact the video's on there as well.
True,
now,
that is
Yeah,
awesome.
that does
I
make
haven't
it seem
actually
fair.
heard it on Spotify with the video yet, so
No?
maybe I need to experience
It's
that.
cool as well because you can ask questions and stuff on there, and people can respond to your episode and stuff as well. So that's pretty
That is cool.
I think
like-
there's only one person that's done it yet.
Right.
But
What, on Spotify?
yeah. It was
I didn't even know about
because
that.
their default question is, "Did you enjoy this episode?"
Yeah.
And like someone just put like, "Yes, a lot."
Nice.
Nice! Does it say who?
Shout out to you.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was now. I have to
Was
have
it
a
not
look.
like somebody we know?
No.
Oh.
Yeah, it was.
Who were
Secret admirer.
unknown stranger.
You know who you are, and I'm sorry if I didn't say exactly what you said, but you did like it.
Shout out to you, mystery person. This pod is for you.
Yeah.
Now, not just this
Solely for
episode,
you.
just in general. No. But definitely this one. Dedicated
Dedicated
to
to
you.
the first
Unknown
person that
stranger.
spoke on Spotify and
Yeah.
answered the question.
And I promise right now that we will write a song called Unknown Stranger at some point, and it will be literally dedicated to you.
Beautiful.
So you can show your friends, your family, and be like, this song was written about me by these weird podcast dudes. All right? Unknown Stranger. You know, I'm already getting some ideas for Unknown Stranger coming to me in the night. You know, we can just we can expand.
It's my unknown stranger.
Coming in on Spotify.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. Bullwinkle hitting it with the
There you
lyrics.
go.
Yeah, so we'll do that at some point. Maybe next week. I'll write you a little song, my friend.
Would you a good improv?
Yeah, we are doing a good
Been
improv.
working on a track for the last few weeks.
Yeah, that's why we haven't done it. So, by the way, yeah, just to let everybody know. So, I know we haven't done an improv track since Christmas now. The last one we did was Flying High This Yule. But the reason we haven't done it, it's not just because we can't be asked. It's because we are working on a big project. I can't remember. Have I already said like what we're doing?
Yeah.
I've already announced.
I think so. Yeah.
I think I have as well, but I can't remember exactly when.
I don't know how deep we got into it, but
Yeah.
it was like
So
There's a battle ongoing.
yeah, so a lot of, for our old school listeners, you might remember that not the Christmas just gone, but the Christmas before, we did like a funny cover of Jingle Bells, but we called Jingle Balls because we're really mature. But halfway through the song, I wrote this weird little, quite dark story just called The Tale of Jimmy O'Malley. So our cover is called Jingle Balls brackets The Tale of Jimmy O'Malley, and half in between. Sort of like the two halves of Jingle Balls, I wrote this little story about this little lad called Jimmy O'Malley, and it's about basically, he's writing to Father Christmas and he wants some drums, but basically it's quite dark. Instead, Krampus comes and he kills him. And then we had like some feedback at the time and that, and I remember some comments on the YouTube video, and they were like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you just out and out killed Jimmy," and like there was another one that I think was like "Bring Jimmy Back" and something like that.
Poor Jimmy.
I thought like that, at some point we'll do that. So anyway, a song has been written and a song has been recorded. Obviously, it took us quite a long time to get all of that done, and for any musicians out there that have spent time, well, for any musicians out there that have spent time in the studio, you know what it's like. So I wrote the song in pretty decent time, but the production obviously takes a long time, like that for that style, because usually we just do sort of improv stuff, record it live. this was different format, obviously, like
multi-track,
Fine
baby.
tune.
yeah, multi-track, and obviously, like, you know, we're like, oh, maybe this will sound good, and then we'd spend like 3 hours recording stuff that just later on we just deleted, and stuff. So it's an arduous process and it's a tedious process.
But the result is gonna be beautiful.
Hopefully, yeah. So we've got a song. The song has been like finished now. There are a couple tiny little tweaks we want to make to it, but the song is basically finished.
And we did a full day's filming today, which was awesome.
We
So
did.
it's about 3/4 of the filming done, I'd
Yeah,
say.
yeah, I'd say that. So yeah, so we've done a lot of the filming today, and as I said, this is a sequel to the tale of Jimmy O'Malley that we wedged in between our cover of Jingle Balls. So this will be a direct sequel. This time, it's a whole song dedicated to it. So I think the original one was maybe like 2 minutes.
Yeah,
in between,
minute and a half. 2
yeah,
minutes,
in
or...
between the Jingle Balls. But this is a whole song,
a whole tale,
a whole song with its whole own video and everything, and it's what happens after Jimmy O'Malley has been killed by Krampus. So it's the whole follow up to that. It's very sort of written in like a fantasy style. So think sort of like, you know, Lord of the Rings, you know, Game of Thrones, like any of those like really good fantasy, you know, Conan the Barbarian. And like I was showing Bullwinkle actually on Friday, one of the things I was thinking about in my head, sort of conceptualizing it all, was there's this really old little film that was I think it was done by George Lucas actually, before George Lucas has like made it as like a massive director and producer, and it's called I think it's called Black Angel. Black Angel, and it's like this little half an hour movie that he made back in the day, really low budget. And it's to me, I think it's a beautiful piece of film, like cinematography. I said it's only about 25 minutes long, something like that.
you can watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, you can watch it. You can watch it in good quality on YouTube. I think it was filmed in 1980. You know, so expect the filming to be 1980 quality. But as long as you know you're not
still back when it was film
Yeah,
as well.
yeah,
like, which
yeah.
is because that was always a big thing that stopped normal people getting into it as much, is the fact that films were so expensive and everything, you know, and to actually shoot off a whole reel and stuff.
I know that Quentin Tarantino's like real fussy about recording stuff properly with like old school film. And he's a real like stickler for that, isn't he? He's like doesn't like the fact that it's all like, you know, digital nowadays and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a really cool 25. I don't know if you've ever seen it, Joe. I don't think you have. I know I've never watched it with you, and it's the sort of thing that I know that probably.
So what is it? What's the kind of premise of it?
It's just a short story.
Has it got audio as well? It's not like a.
Yeah, it's got audio, man.
Cool.
It's like I said, 1980. So it's in color, obviously, and they had color by 1980 commonly. But I said I think he wrote it like almost like right after he did A New Hope or something, and I can't remember the exact reason why George Lucas. I'm sure it's George Lucas that did it. Anyway. It's a little story about like a little night, and it's almost like a little short story about it. And it's like, it's quite simplistic, but it's beautiful in its simplicity.
There was a lot of focus on like the scenery around and the nature,
Yes.
like a big focus on like you say, the cinematography of capturing that beautiful landscapes that they're going through. Which
Did you
was quite
watch it
cool.
all on Friday when I showed it to you?
I didn't watch it then, but I have watched
Right.
it since.
Right, yeah.
But,
I think it's very good at building ambience, and it's like it's quite dark. But like, it's not horrific, but there is it's dark fantasy. Do you know what I mean? It's quite like, for anybody
Quite eerie.
For anybody that out there that's like a fan of like Frank Frazetta. If you don't know who Frank Frazetta is, he's like one of the most famous fantasy artists of all time. Excuse me. He wrote, he drew a lot of the artwork for the famous old Robert E. Howard novels. And Robert E. Howard is the guy that basically created Conan the Barbarian. Even if you haven't seen the Arnold Schwarzenegger Conan the Barbarian movie, or even maybe the Jason Momoa one, the more recent one, which wasn't really so good, but Robert E. Howard created Conan the Barbarian as like a character, and Robert E. Howard wrote a whole series of books on it, and all the front covers were drawn by Frank Frazetta, and he's basically this amazing fantasy artist. But his style's quite like dark. He's like my favorite artist, so I've got some of his art in my house. Like some of them are real famous ones, like Death Dealer. Yeah, one like very well known piece.
Sounds cool.
And this other one called like Kane of the Golden Sea and stuff. And it's like there's lots of like skeletons
and lots of boobies.
There's like nudity. There's like they're not like X-rated at all or anything like that. I think they're actually quite classy.
Tasteful.
Yeah, they're tasteful.
Tasteful boobies.
They're tasteful, classy boobies, rather than like non-taste. Because nobody wants non-tasteful boobies.
No.
You want them tasty
You want
boobies.
nobody. Yeah, you want tasty,
Flavorful.
You want tasty, flavorful, classy boobies.
Yeah.
Over
Of course.
You know, you don't want to be like,
Tasteless.
going down the local brothel, man. You know?
No.
Yeah, wow, you want like some Kate Middleton boobies, you know? Classy, man. Sorry to any ladies listening. But yeah, so quite graphic, but quite dark. But I really love his arc. It's like got this beauty to it. Even like the real dark stuff, it's got this beauty to it. As I said, he's not afraid of like, showing like the male or female form. Do you know what I mean? There's like quite a lot of like raw flesh in it and stuff like that. But I say I never see it in like a weird seedy way or anything like that. I see it's like, and he openly says, do you know what I mean? Like he was like really admired, like he was like completely in love with his wife. And like really admired the feminine form. And I know that might sound like a funny thing to say because it's like, well, what heterosexual men don't? But you know what I mean? You could tell from like an artist's point of view.
It's like an appreciation of it.
Yeah, because he was obviously
creative way.
Yeah, he was obviously a ridiculously high level artist, and he looked at women almost like as a piece of art. Not in a way, as I said, not in like an objectifying
just the beauty.
way. Yeah,
how
the
you can
beauty.
see beauty in something and fully just like.
Do you see? I'm trying to cover my bases now.
in awe of it. In awe of it. You know, when you're inspired.
Yes.
The awe of that beauty.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can all sympathise with that. To be honest, I think
totally.
And
I remember like hearing like about stories of like Egypt and ancient how the human civilization was like seeded by like could have been like an alien race or something. It was like the gods and the stories of like pre-Egypt and that. It's like the gods like saw the form of human beings and wanted to mate with them because it was so beautiful and that. And you can imagine it, can't you? You create that thing of beauty and it's like giants and
in Greek mythology as well, it's like a running theme.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? Yeah.
Why you have like men like the demigods as they're called, so like Achilles. For anybody that's watched Troy with with Brad Pitt and what's his name? The guy that plays Hector, and also Orlando Bloom's in it as well. He plays Paris.
Yeah, Orlando Bloom doesn't play a very good character in that movie.
Well, I don't want to give a spoiler away, but he's a good archer, the same as in Lord of the Rings, and he actually does something really pivotal at the end, doesn't he? Achilles' heel.
Yeah.
But that's where the saying of Achilles' heel comes from. It literally is the originator of the saying from the whole story of Troy.
Nothing could
not from
cut
the film,
him down apart from
not from the film, but from the
no,
original story.
Orlando Bloom, he invented the saying.
Yeah, just hit a shot so good that was like, we got to talk about that.
Yeah, actually, the saying was only from like 2004 or whatever it was. Whenever that movie came out, great movie by the way.
Yeah, so
Sean
good.
Bean's in it as well, isn't he?
I can't remember Sean Bean. I think I do remember that.
He's one of in the Greek army that's attacking Troy. He's in like the same army as like Achilles and all that.
Yeah, that was so good.
Yeah,
I watched that again recently. Like not recently, probably about like 6 months ago or something. Like
it's a really good movie, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so good.
But
that's that. Yeah, the Greek thing.
Yeah, so we're talking about demigods. So like obviously Achilles, Hercules, they're demigods, and the whole reason why is because Zeus.
The gods were so tempted.
Zeus obviously
by the beautiful form of the women.
Beautiful ladies. Yeah, so it's like Zeus is like the king of the Greek pantheon of gods, but he basically just like walks among Earth sometimes. Among the earth because it's like
why not if you can,
and it's like he sometimes will see these beautiful women and he just can't help but just like then want to like partner up with them for a little bit. So a lot of the time, the women don't even know because he's like in disguise or something, and
they're gonna be birthing a demigod.
Yeah. So then because they then are literally going to be half gods. So that's why Achilles is like so OP in Troy, and it's also why Hercules is like so OP in all the Greek myths. Like literally, like there's tales of like Hercules like taking down like giants and cyclopses and hydras and the Nemean. I think it's the Nemean lion. It's like supposed to be like the largest lion that ever lived and stuff like that, and then he wears its hide as a cloak.
Has there been like a good Hercules movie in
There's
recent
a Disney
times?
one.
Yeah, I like the Disney
one.
one.
I really don't think there is. I mean, no, there was
a good. You could make a killer Disney. Killer Hercules.
If it was like one as good as Troy, because Troy, obviously the way they portray Achilles, it's like perfect. It's like
like Gladiator, like when you think of like Russell Crowe and that. Like,
but it's like because Achilles, these guys, they're demigods, they're not out and out gods, so they can't just like send like lightning bolts down to kill people or anything. But
they got human power.
But it's like normal humans can't compete. Like the whole thing in Troy, like Hector's like the finest warrior in Troy, and he can like pretty much off anyone, Hector. But then it's like once he's up against Achilles, that's like a whole nother level. It's
literally invincible.
Like
apart from one spot.
He can't make him bleed. He can't even like land a blow. Can he really? It's just
So
like
crazy.
it's just demigods are just that.
Demigods, they just got that.
They got that extra notch.
Got that peak,
that extra
man.
layer.
Another level.
They can go Super Saiyan. You know what I mean? They can go Super Saiyan on your ass. But yeah, really cool. So just to backtrack, because I know we've gone a little so we were talking about how gods. Oh, also there's a reference to it as well for anybody that's seen the show Vikings. Do you remember when Auslag, she was like visited by like Odin?
Oh, is it Odin or is it
Odin.
Odin?
It's supposed to be Odin, I think.
No,
but,
he was called like
yeah, but I think
Hardband.
Yeah, but that's like his like disguise or something. Like, it's like
I thought Hardband was
no, his name wasn't Harband.
Harband. Hairband.
Oh, no, Hairband. I got a hairband in
Hairband, Hardband.
No, what is his name?
Hairbear.
What is his name? For anybody that's watching Vikings, for anyone that's seen
Hairbear.
his name, Harbard.
Hardband.
What is his name? Bullwinkle. Can you try and look it up? Sorry,
I swear that was a god. It was like a god. It wasn't. I don't think it was Odin. I think Hardbard was like a god in the Viking pantheon, wasn't he?
No,
Harbard
I
is
think
a wanderer and mysterious storyteller. I don't know if I'm even reading the right thing.
I think it sounds right.
Dreamed of by Helga, Auslag, and Siggy before he arrives in Kattegat.
Yeah. So who is he supposed to be? Who is it implied that he is? Does it as you go on?
Hardbard.
So Bullwinkle's just looked it up, so he didn't.
But a lot of scientists believe he is Odin in disguise.
This scientist right here, ladies and gentlemen. This scientist.
I thought Hardbard was was an actual god.
The great
like,
Viking god, Harbard.
Yeah. I thought that was it, because then like Loki, when Floki comes back and stuff, I swear, like I thought that he said Harbard has been here or something like he knew that. Well, I think he was in touch with the gods as well.
I think there's several references to it. Like I don't think I can't remember if he does the whole time, but doesn't he wear like an eye patch, or at least a part of it? And Odin,
I know he liked the women.
Odin's depicted with an eye patch, and Odin very much like we were saying about Zeus and some of the you were saying about like the Egyptian or pre-Egyptian gods or whatever. The whole idea is that they walk among the mortals sometimes, and then like almost like certain chosen women, then he will like mate with them. You know,
carry on that bloodline.
But basically, the reason I just brought it up is because it's a common theme in like every mythology, isn't it? In all the pagan mythologies, anyway.
Yeah.
Well, actually, even in Christianity,
So
it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, I know he might not do it physically, but God knocks up Mary. It's just that it's a bit more PG, isn't it? It's like rather than
divine conception,
rather than physically coming down in like a male form,
Yeah.
like Zeus or Odin would, which is to be honest, the more fun way, baby. He like almost just like magically goes and like magics a baby in her, doesn't he? Which is a lot less like, you know. Let's face it, if you're gonna watch a movie on one of them, you know, that's a lame movie.
Everyone appreciates the female form.
Yeah, going back to that, yeah.
And anyway, going back to Frank Frazetta, I think that's where we started off. So yeah, Frank Frazetta, great artist. He did all the that's what I was getting at. It's very Frank Frazetta style, Black Angel.
And we spoke about that because we filmed something today.
Yeah!
Oh yeah, that's it.
Oh, finally getting back around
full
in circles.
circle.
Oh, mate, I'm impressed that we could even do that. Usually we just get lost.
Yeah.
But so do you now you've seen it, they Bullwinkle? Do you know what I mean about Black Angel? It's got that almost like that dark. It's like dark, but there's something almost like beautiful about it. But it's got that dark fantasy style. Isn't it?
It's almost lonely in a way. But But it's a nice like. It's
How many
appreciative
characters are there in it
loneliness.
from the start again? Like 1 or 2, 3?
Not a lot.
I haven't seen it in years, so you'd know better than me because you've seen it more recently.
Yeah, he fights skeletons at the end. I did see that.
Spoiler alert.
Well, it was a
not
cool
that I
little
can
scene.
talk. I'm the worst for that. I always remember how funny it was. The funny thing is, I can't actually remember doing this. But before we go back to maybe talking a little bit more about the video that we shot and the song and stuff, I just remember most of you, well, a lot of you listening will have either seen Bullwinkle's brother Josh like on, or heard him at least on some sort of like show before. Like he's been on quite a few dark.
Zeus Swallow the Gold.
Yeah,
we
Zeus
should get
Gold.
Josh on a pod soon,
Yeah,
man. That'd be
definitely.
cool. He hasn't been on a pod before.
Josh is always a good person to have a natter with as well. Do you know what I mean? Just knows a lot of interesting stuff and a lot of cultural references and that. But Yeah, but Zeuswar the Gold's been on the Dark Dale, which is like my rock and metal show on AWNSR. Josh has been on that quite a lot, Zeuswar, and he's also obviously Bullwinkle's brother. So a lot of the people that are listening to us that actually know us personally will obviously know Josh Ayest. Former lead singer, guitarist of Death by Kai, etc. Great photographer, great artist, and stand-up guy. But Josh just said that it's like this hilarious story about when The Phantom Menace came out when we were in primary school. I think we were like in year 6, I think, when The Phantom Menace came out. Obviously, Star Wars Episode 1, the prequels. And I saw it like a couple of days before Josh. I think I saw it on the day it came out because my parents were like mega Star Wars fans. So we all went to see it in the cinema, and I was like super hyped about it. And you know when you're excited about something, I know that you're like this as well, Drew, and you want to share it with somebody, and it's not, you don't want to spoil it for him. Obviously, you never want to like deliberately spoil it for him, but sometimes in your excitement, you might like blurt something out. And then you might accidentally give a spoiler, and then it's like, but like some people are like really strict, like I don't want to spoil it. Don't tell me anything. And obviously, like
Josh is one of those people.
Yeah. And then I like say, my uncle Dom's like it as well. Like he won't even watch a trailer. He doesn't.
I'm the same.
He doesn't want to watch
any trailers.
No.
I don't.
He wants to go in cold.
There is a lot that they get into trailers as well, aren't there? It seems like
I feel like they just
moments
put like the entire movie into it, and then like bits.
That's
a lot of
critique,
times,
isn't it? That's a critique of a lot of trailers.
There's a lot of times where I'm gonna go see the film anyway. I know I'm gonna go see the film because I've heard like, oh, this is gonna be a good film, so I want to go see it.
Yeah.
So I don't need to see
like,
the bits about it. Because
normally the only reason I watch trailers is if I'm going through Netflix and I want to watch a movie and I don't know what it's about.
Yeah,
so I'm like,
yeah.
am I going to like this or am I not going to like this? And it's kind of those throwaway movies that are a bit just like, I need someone to put on.
I do. There's definitely an art even into just making a trailer, isn't it? Because it should just be enough to entice but not give away. Like if you give away stuff of like the climactic stuff, or like give away almost like you're like giving away spoilers almost in your own trailer, like, you know.
I find those trailers real funny on like Netflix where they just pick like one of the scenes from the movies.
It's usually more like lesser known. It's usually like more lesser known movies, isn't it? I find they do that with. Yeah. Like movies that almost aren't quite high budget enough to have its own trailer. It's funny. Yeah.
I think there's quite a lot of like push from producers and well, probably not producers, but the actual companies that are putting out the product for trailers to show more and more, because it will get like more people in the cinemas,
enticing more people in.
Yeah, exactly. Just show the best bits is always what they're trying to put out. Whereas I think you should save the best bits because 100%. That's the bits you want to go into for the cinema and go, oh, that's crazy.
When you're watching it,
yeah, exactly. Whereas you don't really get that if you've already seen it in the trailer.
Yeah.
So that's why I stay away from them.
But getting back to the original story, so I went to see episode 1, Star Wars episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Come into school, Josh was really looking forward to seeing The Phantom Menace, but hadn't seen it. It was like that night he was going to go see it with his mum or something, Bullwinkle's mum, and I was talking about, and he was like, "Is it good?" And I was like, "Man, it's really, really good." And I was like, really excited. I really wanted to talk to him about it. But he was like, "Don't tell me anything, man. Don't tell me about anything because I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to go see it tonight or whatever." And I went, all right, man, I won't tell you anything, but all I'll say is that Qui-Gon Jinn dies and Darth Maul gets cut in half. It's like probably the two most like important parts of the whole entire movie. Do you know what I mean? Like, just completely ruined it. And it's so funny because I can't even remember saying that, but it's just one of those things that I've almost like stuck with Josh. That I could just imagine him at the time just being like,
"Oh, you've ruined it."
Oh man, like literally. Do you know what I mean? Like all of that. Like I could just imagine like watching, say, like for everyone that's like seen The Phantom Menace, like that iconic fight at the end between like Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor and Ray Park, or Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan and Darth Maul in character, and it's like quite it's an intense fight, isn't it? With a lot. It's like an intense fight, and the choreography in that is like insane, like backflips galore and stuff, and
possibly the best. Although I'll take that back because I think the third, I think Anakin Obi-Wan,
it's very,
the best.
It's very good in terms of pure like action, just over the top like choreography and everything. Yeah, definitely. But insane fight. I just was imagining Josh watching it, just being like, I know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I know that in a minute, freaking Qui-Gon Jinn's going to die and Darth Maul's going to get cut in half.
There's nothing better than a surprise when you're watching something though, like that you're truly enjoying. Like that bit in spoiler alert, that bit in Game of Thrones where that cool prince guy who's like
Oberyn Martell.
Yeah, fighting that massive
mountain.
And then literally, and then he gets his head watermeloned at the end, and
You
I was
don't
like,
see it coming, do you?
yeah,
Game
and I
of
remember
Thrones is great at
how much it surprised me and how cool that was. I was
Because
like, loving
everyone
it.
fears the mountain, don't
Yeah.
they? And even the Hound, like even though the Hound wants to kill him, he's got this such a healthy respect for him. Like the mountain's like this juggernaut of a creature, like almost like inhuman strength and size and everything. Like everyone's frightened of him. But then Oberyn Martell is like this. Basically, he's like a freaking ninja, isn't he? He's like so good at fighting. Obviously, it's a completely different style of fighting to the mountain. The mountain's a juggernaut, hence the name, the mountain. Obviously, it's his nickname, Sir Gregor Clegane, of House Clegane. But yeah, Oberyn Martell's like doing backflips and spinning stuff, and he's got this like spear, but it's like poison tipped and all this stuff, and he's just like the mountain just can't land a blow, can he? Because he's just like too slow. So Oberyn's like flipping around him and just like cutting his fucking
legs and that. And
24 minutes 37, and he's like cuts his legs and all this stuff like that, and then right at the last second, yeah, he's like the mountain's on his back, isn't he?
Yeah.
Just he's gonna get the final blow, trips his freaking leg, gets on top of him, and he's like, boop, but like. Pops his head by like sticking his thumbs in his head first. Do you remember?
In
it's
his
like
eyes.
proper graphic. That's what it shows the blood. He's like screaming and then like almost like pulls his skull apart.
Man, that was savage.
Crazy.
It reminded me of a watermelon. I can imagine how a watermelon would break. You know.
To be fair, obviously I know that like a lot of people criticize George R.R. Martin for like his he's basically been really struggling to write this last book, isn't he? And the plan originally with Game of Thrones was that hopefully George R.R. Martin would have brought out his last book by the time the television series had caught up to it, so that they wouldn't have had to adapt anything himself. But obviously that didn't happen, and even so, it was like years ago now that last season came out, and he still hasn't finished it. And a lot of people reckon now that he's almost like incapable of finishing the book. They think that he's got himself into a bit of a corner. Like he's created, there's too many stories, there's too many subplots, there's too much going on, and it's like, is it even possible for somebody to actually do justice and wrap up all of those individual stuff? Because he's hyped up every single part, but it's almost like in his head he hasn't figured out how to finish everything. So then it's like he's trying to do it.
Which can be the hardest part.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, exactly. It is the hardest part, I think. So it's like, do you know what I mean? It's like, how do you do justice to all these characters? Like, you've done this epic storylines for. Like, how do you wrap it all up?
Because it's the journey that is so enjoyable, isn't it? Like when you're watching and seeing how it's developing and everything, it's such an epic journey. But it needs that finalization. But then how do you do it?
It's got more subplots, hasn't it, than like I think of anything else. Like, think in Lord of the Rings, there's like a couple of subplots, but Tolkien was like, he was just such an expert writer.
I still wish they put John Bombadil.
Tom Bombadil.
Tom Bombadil.
John Bombadil. That's his brother.
I always get him wrong.
He was like
Tom.
He was like the rocker. He was like his rocker brother that went to Woodstock.
John Bombadil.
Hey, I'm John Bombadil. Just comes in like playing a solo with like a rag dipped in acid around his head. John Bombadil. That's great. Yeah, I think Tolkien was almost like such an expert at writing. He like, you know what I mean? He had a subplot of like Frodo and Sam are doing this. Aragorn and Legolas and Gimli are doing this. You know, with a couple of different subplots, but it's like nothing too out of control. What George R.R. Martin's done is like, there's a subplot. Each character, it's like every character has their own subplot. So like the Hound has one, Arya Stark has one, Sansa has one, Jon Snow has one, Tyrion has one, Jaime Lannister has one. Do you know what I mean? It's like, whoa, do you know what I mean? Like he's put a lot of work on his shoulders. Do you know what I mean?
Who were they? Was it a group of writers that actually finished off the main?
I think it was
the two.
I think it was the two like co-directors. It might have been co-director producers. It was like David. Oh, I can't remember. Was it like something Weiss and something Benioff or something like that? Something like that. Like David Weiss and something Benioff.
With Mr. Martin's books.
Oh, George R.R. Martin.
Yeah. With his books, did he get to a point where the White Walkers had come past the wall?
No, I don't think so.
No, I was going to say, man, because it was built up so good, like for that happening.
In the books, we don't even know if there's such a thing as the Night King. You know, the leader of the White Walkers.
Yeah.
They think it's like a lot of people that are super into it think that there probably is going to be a Night King in the books, but it's not even like confirmed in the book.
Do you think maybe the actual writers of the TV show deserved a bit less hate then? Because obviously, if they've been given this story that even the own creator of the story doesn't know how to finish, it must be like a hard job for a TV writer, you know, that's used to just doing adaptations to then be like, right, we're going to have to finish this story ourselves. I feel like that's quite a hard thing if you're not even used to it, and it's not your own story as well.
I think, was it worth finishing?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Like,
you could argue maybe it should be put on hold.
Were they only doing it to think of the fans, but to think of a different set of fans? Because if a lot of the fans were alienated like from it because they were so into the books, should they have waited for the books and
I can't remember, like, we've probably
made it more epic.
We probably have talked about it before, Drew, but like, I don't know what you thought, but I did think the last season was a letdown. Yeah,
it was, and I remember I got about I was just not digging it more and more as it went on, and I didn't even finish it. So I think about 2 episodes, like towards, like I didn't watch the last like 2 episodes or something, and I haven't like now and then. A
lot of stuff, just almost, some of the stuff seemed like easy way outs. Other stuff just seemed almost like a bit like, from the way they almost like built up the character, I can't even imagine the character doing that. Other plots, the way they were ended, made stuff that happened earlier on in the seasons like pointless. Like, like almost like some of the Jon Snow plot just almost seemed to just fall apart. Like it seemed like there was nothing even special about him in the end, whereas they were almost building up subtly this whole time.
He was a savior.
Yeah, that he was like this this savior, and then in the end it was like almost like he didn't even really play much of a big part in anything.
Went a bit Pompeii near the end.
Yeah.
You know that movie? I heard that wasn't like amazing. Like,
it wasn't.
It was just kind of a bit mediocre. But everyone was expecting it to be like amazing. Like,
it wasn't that great. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't good. I'd say that's pretty fair to say.
It's one of the reasons that I've not watched Game of Thrones. It's because I'd like to start it. I've heard so many good things, but then I've also just heard from everyone that the last season's so bad.
I reckon you should just watch everything apart from the last season, and then almost almost like imagine that the last season doesn't exist, and then maybe when the last book comes out, then just read the last book.
Yeah,
man. One that I always wish they'd done one for is The Dark Tower by Stephen King. Like
they tried to do us another.
Yeah, they've done a movie, and it was just rubbish. The movie was rubbish. They pretty much it's got like 7 or 8 books or something, and they pretty much like packed it all into one film.
Yes, that's a lot to whittle down into one movie,
and it's just there's some epic stories in the whole of that like 8 books, and the characters weaving and everything like that, and I do think it would make an epic like long form series,
Yeah, man.
But
one of the only things that I've ever seen that I've been like has just stayed so consistently good throughout the beginning to the end is Breaking Bad, which I literally just finished like the other day.
Do you know, I've only seen the first season.
It's so good. It's so good, and it just gets better and better every single season. I feel like that
about The Last Kingdom as well. But one thing I think about that, and I don't know if what the case is with Breaking Bad, if it was written beforehand, but I think we've talked about it before, but The Last Kingdom is based on a series of books by Bernard Cornwell, who's like a ridiculously well respected and like high level writer.
And did they stick pretty close to
they stick pretty like loyal to it, and he was like like working with them and all the series or seasons, however you want to say it. And almost like being on hand for like, the directors would go to him like, what do you think this character would do in this situation if there was anything that wasn't directly taken from the books and everything? So he would say, well, Uhtred would do this, or this Alfred would do this. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, you're staying true then, aren't you, to like the author's what's funny, man?
I just remember this part in The Last Kingdom, and like when we like lived here, and Rupert knew about Victoria Park. If you just ever mentioned Victoria Park, he'd go like this, and like
that's hilarious.
And he would like think, and then like there was this part in The Last Kingdom, and like Bebbanburg to when he went and there was and it was like near the end of like the seasons and stuff. And Uhtred comes out to his horse, and he's pretty defeated after this like part. I can't remember what happened in the scenes, but then he's talking, and then someone says, "Oh yeah, I've just been past Bebbanburg," and he went like, and he turned around, and we both just like were just burst out laughing
because it was
exactly like Rupert, like we're like hearing that one word that could like
Bebbanburg to Uhtred is like Victoria Park to your dog. Yeah, that's hilarious.
And so it just reminded me of that and made me laugh.
Yeah, but I think at the end of the day, that's it, and it's like what quality source material have you got? If somebody's made a good enough story and you stay loyal to it enough, that's why a lot of people are getting fed up now with like like the Witcher controversy and a lot of stuff like that, and like the Rings of Power and stuff. They're saying that's like the main criticism is what putting people off is that like it's not staying true enough to the source material, and as a result, it's like
deeper stories.
To me, I mean, maybe I'm missing something, right? I understand that like these things are very complicated processes, like making series and that, but to me, I think it seems so simple. Like, look. Don't alienate the core fan base. because those are the ones that are most going to want to watch it.
Yeah.
You know, like say like with The Witcher, for example, it's the people that have read the books and it's the people that have played the games. And the games are loyal enough to the books and they're similar enough to the books that usually the people that like the books like the games and vice versa, or like a lot of people that have read the books have gotten the books because they like the games. And you know they're similar. You know they're pretty much identical. And even the author like is pretty. I'm pretty sure he's like pretty complimentary about the games and stuff. You know, but and Henry Cavill obviously being like a big fantasy nerd wanted it to stay true to the source material, and it's almost like the directors and the producers apparently haven't like played the games or read the books, and it's almost like they don't care.
Yeah,
and it was like winding.
It's more about the views, or like what they think will get the views.
Yeah,
or
like about being like almost like woke and stuff in terms of like, oh well, we've got to add this and we've got to add that, and it's like, and just like tell the story, just tell the story. You know, it's like, and it's almost like Henry apparently on set a couple of times. Henry Cavill would be like,
they'd say like happen like that.
Yeah, they'd be like, well, the character that's doing this, they wouldn't do that. Like it's not in their character. Like if you played the games, you've read the books, you'd know that. Whatever, like Siri, for example, like they wouldn't act in this way.
Yeah,
similar to the Star Wars sequels.
Yeah,
I think I think it's become. I don't know why it's become
like
that.
Yeah,
exactly.
I felt the same way. I felt so let down.
And I know he did as well. He's like come out and said like he feels
Mark
like his
Hamill.
character was not done justice because it just wasn't him. But
he was like nerfed.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like it's become more of a challenge for directors to undertake something that already has a source material. Because they're almost constantly going to be having the pushback from an audience of being, you need to stick to the source material. It needs to be like that, which I think it should be if you're taking on like a really good story. But that's the sort of thing that Breaking Bad had going for it, was that it wasn't already a story. It was all made like by the director and curator, so he got to like have full freedom, and there was no comparison to like, is this better than that, or is this better than that sort of thing?
The thing is, though, it swings and roundabouts, isn't it? Because obviously the reason why I said The Last Kingdom is good is because it's got such good source material. So all he had to do is basically put the written words of Bernard Cornwell onto screen and just do it loyally. If you're going to do that well enough, and if you're going to direct the actors to do that well enough, and you're going to get good enough actors that can act like that, and then mixing with the production and the music that they're going to get and everything, like. It's going to be good. Just
it
do what the
seems like
say.
it's hard for producers to want to do that, and I don't know why.
And it only seems like a couple of, you know, like I can't remember. I don't know who does. I know I think the first couple of seasons of Last Kingdom was done by BBC, and then randomly they got bought out by Netflix, and I think Netflix did it. But they stayed identical in terms of production, music, everything like that, didn't they? Yeah. But like whoever the directors and the producers of The Last Kingdom are, I don't know who they are off the top of my head, but fair play to them because they did a freaking great job. I definitely see the point you're saying, Bullwinkle, about like Breaking Bad, but the downside of that is then you actually have to make sure that the actual story is really good.
Yeah.
And without
like
that
really good
source,
storyteller.
You have to be an amazing writer yourself, which, let's face it, it's not easy.
No.
There's a reason why.
There's a full art to storytelling as well. Like even, I think I've said about it before, but one of the festivals I went to where there was this guy who was a wandering storyteller, and he just had this massive like cart-like lorry thing that he had on the site, all wooden but like really big, and the side just folded down into a stage, and he would just come out and had musicians there and stuff as well, and he would just tell these stories, but right from it was all in here and here, you know, and would just recount these massive stories, and it was such a thing that would have been around the campfire like hundreds of years ago. You know, it would have all been, you know, key stories would have been passed down, and it was a true art to, like, you know, and I just think it's such an amazing kind of thing to experience. Like when I was watching, I was thinking, I could not do this.
And it's like, do you know what? That's just made me think of something which I'll say in a minute, but I just wanted to say this beforehand. It's like, think of it as well, like in terms of like writing, like how many, like think to whoever's listening, right? Think about how many, say, like whether it's like fantasy writers or whatever, that you can actually name off the top of your head. I mean, there's only a few, like a handful maybe of like really famous ones. You know, you got like George R.R. Martin, Game of Thrones guy. You got Tolkien, Lord of the Rings guy. You got J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter lady. You got like C.S. Lewis who wrote like Narnia and stuff like that. But it's like, it's already starting to get a bit like, you know, I can't remember his name, his full name, purely because it's a Polish surname, and as an Englishman being ignorant, it's hard to sometimes pronounce Polish names, very long ones. But
when they're written,
it's like Andrew something. Like I think it begins with a P.
Yeah.
Like the guy that writ. That's the guy that
Mm-hmm.
writ The Witcher. It's like a long 9 or 10 letter surname, but it's like Andrew something Pawlowskiewicz or something like that. Yeah, as Drew said. But I mean, it's hard, and there's a reason why it's hard, and it's because it's hard being a really good writer.
Yeah.
I mean, as I said, Bernard Cornwell's an amazing writer. He sort of like mixes history with elements of fiction. So that's what he always does. So he wrote like Sharp as well, for anybody that remembers that like series with Sean Bean from back in the 90s, which I loved. I grew up on that because my parents loved it. And I still think it's one of my favourite TV shows to this day. But that was the same thing. It was based on, but that was like the same way Last Kingdom is based loosely on his history, like the whole Viking Saxon time. Sharp is based in the Napoleonic War, and it's following a guy called Richard Sharp, who's like working his way up from the ranks just because he's like an amazing soldier in the British Army. But what I was thinking when you were going on, Drew, about that guy, you know, who's like telling a story. What did you say? Did you say what his name was?
I can't remember his name.
No. What a like person to hang around that must be.
Yeah,
by the
his
way.
whole family, like they lived in this like thing and would just go around like doing that. It's so cool.
Yeah, man. It was making me think, and it was actually just a post I saw yesterday. I like followed Bill Bailey on Instagram, and he was saying how you've probably heard them before when I used to do that folk radio show. Well, you did it as well for a long time, The Forest of Glebe. There's this folk artists called Heilung.
Oh yeah.
You heard of them before?
Yeah.
That
Didn't they do the sort of music for Vikings as well, the first season?
Wardruna did that.
Wardruna, yeah.
They're similar to Wardruna though.
Highland, yeah.
It's a bit more shamanistic, I would say.
Yeah. I've seen them.
I'll tell you what, because for anybody that's watching us on like YouTube or Spotify, I'll get up some just so you know what I mean. But they don't refer to their gigs as gigs; they refer to them as rituals. Yeah. And they say and they say we don't refer to them as gigs because they're not gigs. They say they're rituals. And apparently, they come out beforehand, and it's like more. The whole idea is that it's like more than a gig. It is a ritual. So they come out. You sit there, they build the ambience up, and they walk around with like joss sticks and incense.
There's a great
and stuff.
artist called Parangi as well that does similar thing. He's from Sedona
amazing.
in America, yeah.
Yeah, and they get the joss sticks out and everything, and they get the smoke in the air, and then it's like, you know, they build this whole tribal shamanic feel, so that it's not like just when you go to a gig is amazing. Obviously, you stand there, you're taking
There's
the music, and it's just
loads of meaning to it.
But yeah, it's deeper and deeper.
It's like an experience.
Everything they take into account, like your sense of smell, your visuals, your hearing, and everything. And when you get all of those things in tune, I think that's when you have those real moments of like, whoa. Do you know what I mean? Right? It's like amazing when they've just got one. You know, when you're in cinema and you're watching something, and you know, and it's like a good score as well. So you're like it's affecting you in ways you're not even taking in because you're not actively thinking about the score. But you know what I mean? Or if you're like at a gig and the music's amazing, and you know, maybe if it's quite like a theatrical band, you know, and you're like, wow, this is just an amazing performance. But it's like, yeah, I really appreciate how Heilung don't even see it as a gig. They see it as like as a ritual and a performance. But I'll get some of it up so that for people that don't know the band I'm on about, you can glance down at your phone or your computer, however you're listening to us, and just I'll play like a little bit of what I'm on about. So what's this? Heilung Live 2022 Copenhagen. Be quite good if I could. Yeah, this looks like it's official. Yeah, so let's get the cool sound effects on the go. I was thinking as soon as I read like the post from Bill Bailey yesterday, I was thinking, man, I want to go to Heilung concert.
Yeah,
we should get tickets. And like look how all the ladies dressed and everything with like freaking antlers on her head. And did you say you've been to a few?
No, I've seen a few online, like watched them and stuff.
Yeah, come have a look, Bullwinkle. Very like, atmospheric.
Yeah, man.
A lot of ambience. The only thing is, I reckon if I watch this live, I'd want to strip off naked.
Start dancing around.
Yeah. It is proper tribal though, isn't it?
Yeah. It's almost mesmerising in a way.
Yeah, I reckon you would feel quite mesmerised watching it. You'd either get mesmerised or you'd get naked.
Yeah, or both.
Yeah, mesmerised and naked. Do you know what I was thinking as well when I was like watching it before? I think they've incorporated almost like an element of like, you know when you're having like a really nice jam?
Yeah.
And there is still that element of like improv to it a little bit. I can feel like they have kept that, although I'm sure they do obviously rehearse it a lot. But the feel, I can imagine, is like that.
Yeah.
Just skip forward a little bit. It's cool though, isn't it?
That is cool.
Yeah, it's making me want to go to a Highline gig.
Yeah.
I think that with like Estas Ton and stuff as well. Like he's creating a space, and whereas songs are so long, like 30-minute like guitar pieces and stuff, it's just about creating an atmosphere. And like that's what I really like. A few things. I went to a festival, and it was like I've said about ecstatic dances before, where you like kind of get led through like a. It's like almost like a meditation and like a shared like meditative experience when you're dancing and fully expressing yourself and everything. There's no talking or anything like that. It's just about the experience. And it was led by a live band before, so there was someone on the microphone guiding the experience, also with the live band as well, and he was like almost conducting the band as well as the experience with all the people. And I'd never been to like a gig experience like that before. And I was like, that was so cool. It was like this shared, because you are creating a shared experience when you are doing a gig normally, but there is normally like a real big separation between like the band and the people, and you just but when it was like that, it was like everything was just merged as this one thing, and you were like a part of the band as well, like dancing and stuff, and it was so cool. And I was thinking, really cool. And Parangi, he's like a loop artist, but multi-instrumentalist, and he treats his gigs as like ceremonies, and he'll open up the space and bring everyone into that state where it's about a shared creative experience.
I'd love to like try something like that. And I was like, we were talking earlier on when we were in the car on the way back from shooting our music video, that we were talking about earlier on in the show. We were talking about like a little jam we had with our friend Carmen. Like a little while back. So Carmen's just like, shout out to Carmen's just this crazy, in a good way, crazy Spanish lady we know. And I said, I mean that like in a good way. Good kind of crazy. But we had this really funny, and yet again, funny in a good way, good jam with her like the last time she was in England, because she's living in Mexico at the moment, I think. Either that or she's back in Spain now, I don't know. But she lived in England for a while, that's why we met her. And yeah, we had this jam with her. But it was like, I love jamming. I love that whole style of just like, there's no plan of what you're going to play.
There's shared collaborative experience.
You are just going to play whatever. And once you sort of like, as long as you can sort of get into that vibe with the people you're playing with, because obviously it does depend on who you're with. But like with you and Carmen, I found it super easy to like mesh with you both. I think you're similar enough to me. We're quite like animalistic, all three of us. Very different, but in our own way,
in tune with that,
animalistic.
Because creative and music that coming through you when it does like
we have
that.
There's
this like
even though we're all very
you can tap into.
We're very different in terms of our personalities and stuff, in terms of like our key traits maybe, but we all have this super love of like nature, this appreciation for it, and almost like all being in tune with almost like our animalistic side or something like that. And because of that, it's almost like that visceral way of playing music, where it's like there's no plan, you just do it, and then you all sync with each other, and then just like something starts happening, and you're feeling this energy and this magic.
I feel like we've lost it a lot in our normal lives, and there's something about like ceremony and ritual and like those experiences and jamming. And I remember another experience when I was in Into the Wild Festival, and it was like the opening circle around a fire where everyone just gathered. Were you naked? And I wasn't naked, no, but I had my djembe. And
he's not talking about his penis, everyone. He's talking about a drum.
An actual djembe. Yeah.
Have my djembe out.
Actually, I didn't even have my djembe. We just done the kind of opening like ceremony around the fire where everyone kind of gathered and like opened up the festival. Fire was going in the middle, and I ran and got my djembe because the tent was like quite close. And got to the front and like just started playing it like by the fire, and then like there was about 50 people all started joining in with the drum beat, and we created.
You started a drum beat.
Yeah, I started it on my djembe, and then someone else like sat next to me. This girl called Joy, I still remember like thing, and was like, and we were keeping it going and feeding off each other. I never spoke to this person in my life. Yeah, I still remember the joy of that moment, I can tell you.
The joy of joy.
And literally, like, everyone was just dancing, and it was like, and I remember the ebb and flow of it. Everyone was dancing around.
Was there any other
people
musicians?
Were singing. Like, nope, there was just all drums.
So just a drum beat, what? But people were singing in that?
Yeah, and then people started singing over the top of it and weaving all these harmonies
or just
and everything.
random,
just completely embracing the moment.
Nice,
and I was like, there was
nice.
something animalistic, something tribal about people wanting to come and to get together in that moment and just like around the fire. And it was like, I'm like, this is what life's about. This is what we're kind of missing this. Letting yourself go, but also collaborating and communicating
Together.
with people around you in a human state, you know?
Not by just traditional conversation.
No, and it was like, I was like, man, this is so cool. And also, at the end of Boomtown Festival, where all the stages were shut off and everything. I think I've told you about this before as well, but it was like, it was mental.
Was this one, were you naked in this one?
I wasn't naked, no. But like, it was like all the stages are turned off and everyone headed to the woods because that was just a cool place to go afterwards. And you could almost like hide in the woods. Yeah. And there was a group of like, it was thousands of people, man. And there was these barrels that all had the rubbish in. People would upturn the barrels and taking the barrels into the woods and were just drumming on these steel barrels that like, you know, like the bins. And you didn't know where it started, you didn't know where it ended. It was thousands of people, but it was and you could hear music in it. I was there, and I could, and because it was like so tribal and it carried on for like a good couple of hours. It never stopped, but if you can imagine, like in one part of it would go down a bit, and then. And I remember sitting there and listening to it, and because of the whole weekend of all this music and everything, I could almost hear the weekend's music in the tribal kind of sound that everyone was making with the drums, and it was amazing experience, you know. And that was another thing I thought, this is something that's missing from this is what we want to express in this way, you know.
I wonder if that was almost like nature or nurture in terms of like what you're saying about how you could hear almost like the weekend's experience summed up in the track. Like, do you reckon you felt like that? I mean, I don't think you can even answer the question, but it's just something that's nice for us all to think about. Do you think it was like that because somehow people did manage to like join up to then sum up musically, almost like this is the musical representation of the weekend we just had? Or do you think that was on more because of like a personal thing to you? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, obviously you had just had the weekend that you'd had, and then for you, that was like
it was my personal experience of imagining that in my head, but the shared experience.
But do you see what I'm saying there? What I quite like the idea of, and it's a more far-fetched idea, and there's no way of us saying whether this is the case or not, but you know, it's like somehow this like unity of like, you know, you're somehow expressing an oral
100%.
That's oral AURAL, not ORAL, baby. Like an oral representation somehow of your weekend, like summed up through music. Like that's to me, that's a cool thought.
Almost reproducing the energy that has come to you, like through all the music.
Man.
And then almost like it's like come into you, and then you're expelling it through music.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like the idea of that.
Do you know what it reminded me of as well? When you see like a murmuration of birds, and it all stays together as one thing, but it moves in all these shapes and that. Like that's what the music sounded like.
That's a really good analogy, I think.
And like because it was we were all the birds. Like we were all the people.
What I was saying though about when you're with people that you can really get on a level with, that same level with, when you're like jamming and stuff, and in your situation, a great analogy for it is like a murmuration. When you see murmurations of birds and you're like, how are they all like doing this thing? Do you know what I mean? It's almost like a dance, but it's not a dance. It's like on a deeper level than that. It's like this, they're weaving in and out of each other, and it's like all these creatures have just become one.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating.
It's that energy that keeps it all together, you know? And that's the thing with music, which is so amazing. Like with even on a smaller scale with bands, when there's like 5 people that are all locked in and it's so tight, it's like, who's creating that? Like, what are we locking into? It's this shared energy that everyone is like kind of riding, like this wave, you know?
Yeah, man.
It's so cool.
It is absolutely crazy, man. It's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing.
Yeah, man. I love it.
Must have been so cool to have started the other one as well.
Yeah.
For you to have been the actual one starting it. Must have felt like you almost gave people that experience.
Oh, yeah, it was so beautiful. And then even like, I remember like it was like ebbing and flowing with it like going down and that. And I remember the Joy person said to me afterwards, she was like, oh, thank you so much for like being there with that, because I was like, she was like, I was feeding off your energy, like to actually do some bits, and when I could feel that when it was dropping, you would like pick it up and stuff. And it was like, oh, that's cool. You know, we didn't speak at all in it, but like afterwards, it was like
cool, man.
hearing someone's like
Still had that connection.
Yeah.
I bet that was nice as well. Do you know what I mean? Just obviously, you know, that she showed that she really appreciated that. That's a nice feeling, man. That's a nice feeling, you know.
So cool.
But what do you reckon, fellas? Do you want to do a little Mystery Mondays now, or do you want to do some quick fire facts first?
Okay, hit us with the facts and then the mystery.
Hit us with the facts. Hit us with the facts. Hit us with the facts. Hit us with the facts.
Hit us with the facts. Hit us with the facts. Hit us with the facts. Hit us with the facts.
It's time for a fact to bring it to y'all. We want to know something that'll make you feel real good, real good, real goody goody good, real good, real good, real goody goody good. Right, so it's time for quick fire facts, everybody. Did you know, ladies and gentlemen, that the earliest dildos were made from materials such as stone, tar, wood, bone,
sticky, bone,
ivory, limestone, and even teeth. That is from, basically from archaeological remains. Some of these materials were sharpened, while others were... I hope not too much, ladies. Come on, calm down. Don't want to do yourself any damage.
I've seen like crystal ones.
Yeah.
In Glastonbury.
Yeah, obviously in Glastonbury. Where else? Some of these materials were sharpened, while others were compressed in order to create the genital image. I love that, the genital image. That sounds like a real funny like name of a band.
Yeah.
Well, it's just my new punk
image.
band, Genital Image. Bones of ivory were the most convenient material for penis-like images. Double head-shaped dildos are even found around 19,000 years ago.
Whoa.
So from archaeology, we found 19,000-year-old dildos.
They like that pleasure.
What do you think they mean by double head-shaped? Double head-shaped?
So
double-ended?
Double-ended.
Oh. Whoa. What for like some like crazy lesbian
Mind
action?
blown.
Whoa, ladies.
I assume that's what they mean, rather than like a two-headed snake or something like that.
Is that what we're going to call it? The two-headed snake. In fact, it says, in the ancient Egyptian civilization's art and paintings, which date back to over 3,000 BC, that's obviously over 5,000 years ago now, folks, dildos are used in a variety of ways for both men and women. But even to this date, the most exciting usage of such dildos was, of course, depicted by the ancient Greeks. Shout out to all the ancient Greeks out there. And even just Greeks in general. In ancient Greece, vase art, dildos have been displayed in several ways. According to some artists' interpretations, these dildos were used solo or for women's group sex. In a 6th century BC vessel, a woman is blowing a man while another man is thrusting a dildo into her anus.
Man. Might be a little X-rated.
Sorry, everyone, if that's a bit X-rated. To be fair, for like everyone that's listening on to the radio, it's past 10 o'clock now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you can't handle
bit of dildo in the ass.
I was gonna say if you can't handle anal penetration after 10 p.m.
When can you handle it?
then I don't know what to say. But no, I am sorry if that's offended anybody. But come on, we're all adults here. Come on, everybody, we're all adults here. We haven't seen anything. We've just heard a thing or two. But anyway, what is so cool about the Greeks' sexual activities is that they reinvented the dildo for more exciting and practical use. Whether the stone-made dildos led to injuries or not is unknown. I have to say, man, a stone's quite a brutal... I mean, I know
I
like
always think
some...
with the crystal ones, I'm like, surely like that must be a bit cold
hard.
and hard. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that about the cold thing. Because you've got like a nice little like crystal pipe, haven't you? And you showed me that literally just earlier on, and my initial thing.
Oh, that's cold.
Yeah, I was like, man, this is cold. Do you know what I mean? So like, maybe it feels good.
Definitely wouldn't want that pipe. I tell you.
Yeah, I'm not talking about maybe it would feel good with that pipe. I'm talking maybe the coolness in general would feel good. I don't know. But yeah, while Drew's getting that out, I'm just going to finish off this interesting information on ancient dildos. Whether the stone-made dildos...
Ancient.
There we go. Ancient pipe there by Drew. Drew's ancient pipe. Whether the stone-made dildos led to injuries or not is unknown, but it definitely seems extremely uncomfortable. Yeah, I mean, I guess like some rocks and stones are quite smooth. Are quite smooth.
Yeah.
But let's hope it wasn't like, imagine like a jagged one. Oh god.
Teeth.
Yeah.
Jesus.
The Greeks displayed their creativity and did something new with the Stone Age dildos, it says. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, I wonder what that new thing was.
Yeah, I know. It's sort of like left a bit open-ended
They
there.
did something.
That's what
They
she
did
said.
something. Oh.
Get it? Left it open-ended. Anyway, that's really strange. This is a strange one. Next fact, everybody. Men walk significantly slower when walking with a woman compared to when walking with men, but only if that woman is their romantic partner. If she is a friend or an acquaintance, men walk almost at full speed. So isn't that funny? So if you're
There you go, ladies.
if you're with a friend or
Way to tell.
acquaintance, if you're with a friend or acquaintance,
full-
then men
you know
tend
where
to
you're
walk
going.
almost at full speed. But if a man is with a partner, they will walk slowly. Isn't that weird?
Like subconsciously, you don't care enough to slow down, or something like that.
Yeah, I
I
don't
wonder
know.
why the reason
I
is.
don't really know what to take away from that. Maybe
I
it's
like to think that it's because you're enjoying being with your partner so much that you're enjoying the leisurely stroll.
Yeah,
that you're
I was
creating
going to say
together.
we're basically getting at the same thing. I was going to say I think it's something to do with courting. It's some evolutionary thing like courting. Like if you're on an evolutionary level, obviously the reason why we are almost like we've developed romance, things like this, is obviously because our goal, obviously, as a species is to continue on our race. That's basically why, obviously, every creature has it ingrained in them to mate. In fact, with a lot of species, if not most species, it's basically the driving point of their whole entire existence. But I guess if you were just like going to rush past every single potential mate, or like a mate, or you looked on like the opposite sex, and you're like, okay, this is like a viable mating partner, and you just rushed past them. That's not very good.
I suppose it depends on what you're doing. Like, if you're walking with your partner to go somewhere...
Cue back to the last fact.
And then you... Huh?
When it was going on about like,
I thought I skipped a fact then, and I was like back one by accident.
No. I was going back to the one basically the depiction of the blowjob with the
But like like if you're walking, if you need to get, say you need to get to the cinema or something, and you're walking with your partner, you're gonna walk there pretty fast. You know what I mean?
Well,
but
especially if you're running late for the film.
Yeah. But like. Yeah, if you're just chilling, like I can imagine you're like relaxing into just a leisurely like, you know.
If it's like if you're like on holiday in Italy,
why would
you've
you
just
rush?
had a big meal, you want to walk through the streets of Sorrento on your way to find a limoncello somewhere.
Yeah, I like to think that you're kind of like basking in like how nice the situation is with your loved one, you know, like why would you walk fast? Like, but when you're with someone like, you're just normally walking somewhere, it's like to get somewhere
for a purpose. You're going
you're not
to a destination.
aimlessly meandering with someone, and like, you might be. And I reckon if you were with like an acquaintance or a friend, and you were going for a walk, I reckon you'd walk slow with them as well, because you know what I mean. Like if I was
depends on the situation, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, if the situation was you were just
nice
going there to enjoy each other's time.
If we were in Italy, we've been out for a romantic meal together, Drew.
I'm still talking about girls. I'm still talking about girls.
I'm talking about you.
I'm saying if you're walking with a girl that isn't your girl, and you're just still as a friend going for a nice stroll in a woodland with them, I reckon I'd walk slower.
Well, but not with me.
Nah.
But
we hike. Do you remember that time we went from Deer Park to Holford?
From Deer Park.
Deer Park to Holford. We were missioning, man. Like, it's just, I think, you normally are on a mission with your guy friends.
But one thing I would say to that then, because this is something that you've just genuinely confused me a little bit. But if you're saying that the ladies that you would walk slowly with, though, you just said that it's not in a romantic way. Well, then how is that any different than, say, if you're walking with me? Because in this situation, they are a friend.
Yeah, you got me there.
That
it's just completely platonic.
So I think your subconscious wants to actually mate with this unknown lady.
Yeah, maybe that is
in Italy.
Because really, a friend of yours that is female that you're not romantically involved with shouldn't be that different. And I say that different because I do think there are some natural differences.
Yeah.
But I don't think they should be
of a
that
female.
different to say if you were with me or Josh. I mean, obviously we are affectionate towards each other as like bros. Do you know what I mean? So there is affection there. It's just different affection.
And I reckon, okay, so if you're chatting, if you're deep in conversation and you're on a walk with either male or female friend, I reckon you slow down.
Yeah, I think your subconscious was wanting to mate with this unknown lady, Drew.
Yeah, I think that is maybe a like, and I think what you say about like courtship, not in a way that you think it's actually going to happen.
Yeah,
it's almost like the dance of male and female just kind of enjoying each other's company, like in a slow. It's not about being like sexual with them or like wanting that as the end goal.
Yeah,
but just like if Meg listened to this, I'd be digging myself into a big hole right now. But like, do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. I do think that like obviously like I've throughout my life I've had I've pretty much had friends that are girls for as long as I can remember. I like I'm not one of those guys that's like, I hang around with a chick if I want to get with her. Like, I just think that's a bit silly. Like I think it's nice to have like a different. A nice balance and different people that you're friends with in lives, and that doesn't mean just like obviously you can have massive variation just in just guy mates, but it's also nice to have girl mates and a different and massive variation in the girlfriends you have. Like some of my really close friends are women, and obviously it is a little bit of a different feel to you.
Yeah, a different vibe
because it just is.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And that's cool.
It's not like good or bad or anything. It's just that is just sort of like the
and
way
that's
it
what
is.
I was saying. So I think that natural flavour of being with a woman compared to a man, and you're going for a what? They even said it in the fact. At men it's with full speed, but with a woman and it's not your partner, it's nearly full speed. So you still slow down a little bit. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like there's that show
at almost full speed.
At almost full speed. Not at full speed like you are with
still not on a mission as much as you would be.
Yeah, there's something there that is just that natural flavour of like.
Do you think
maybe you subconsciously think they'll walk slower than you because you're normally taller than them?
That's exactly the point I was going to make. Do you think subconsciously you think that perhaps
I've got to be respectfully slow for the
exactly.
Well, like say like especially say like
smaller legs, man.
Yeah, especially like in something like my case, like the chances are
you take 3 strides in my one.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what I mean? Like, my stride is going to be longer than say if I'm with a lady who's like 5'3" or something like that. Like I'm like a foot taller than her. Pretty much.
Yeah, you might just pick her up and put her on your back.
Like. Yeah, I might as well. If we were in a rush,
being considerate.
Yeah, I think there is that chivalrous. Considerateness.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's just natural.
What's really funny is, apparently scientists have monitored this so accurately, they know that males tend to slow down by about 7%. They've actually got it that accurate.
What, with a romantic partner?
Yes. When walking with a female romantic partner, males tend to slow down by about 7%. What's interesting though, it says female romantic partner, so I wonder if homosexuals, because it's very specific that it says female romantic partners. So the homosexuals, do you think they slow down with each other?
They run.
They just run after each other.
Yeah, and then they run with each other.
Oh man,
go fan now.
Oh man, yeah. It says afterwards. It says people have an optimal walking speed that balances getting to your destination with minimal energy expenditure. So your body naturally sort of balances that out. This optimal speed varies with physical features based on the individual, like mass, limb length. Therefore, males in any given population tend to have, on average, a faster optimal walking speed than females. Given this difference, it is not clear what happens in walking groups of mixed sex. In order to walk together, someone in the pair will need to pay the energetic cost of deviating from his or her optimal speed. That's interesting, isn't it? What I think, this is obviously just hypothesis, I think that probably what happens in a group situation, I think we can all picture this in our heads. It's what immediately came to my mind when I read that then. As I think you will have people that go off. You'll probably have like a couple of people that will naturally walk ahead of everyone else. That'll almost like break off. You're still part of the group, but for some reason, you're like 15 feet ahead of everyone else. Yeah. Then maybe you'll have the rest of the group. And maybe even different subsections. Maybe there'll be 2 people at the back that are just really chill. Maybe it's like a mate of yours who's likes a girl that's just been introduced to the group. And they maybe are doing that thing that we just spoke about. They're at the back. And then there's like a group in the middle. And they're somehow in the middle. And you naturally, as a group, obviously, because you're not just going to walk so far ahead of your group that you just lose your group. You're out with each other for a reason. You know, even if it's just because like you're teenagers and you're just hanging out because you want to hang out, you're still with each other for a reason. You're not going to like then go to meet up with each other and just like walk off. So it's like, I think, let's face it, you're probably going to, if you realise, look behind that you're walking too far ahead, you are just going to naturally slow down or just wait until they caught up and then start walking again.
Where would you say you naturally come on that scale? Like being at the front?
I walk fast.
I think I tend to be all three, depending on the situation.
At the same time.
So like, yeah.
Inception!
Yeah. But I think if I was going on a walk with my friends, I might be in the middle for a bit, just chatting to people, then like pace up and walk with the people at the front and then like slow down and walk with the people at the back.
I don't think I've walked in groups enough, man. I can't really think in my head of like, I try and avoid...
Drew's archives knowledge.
I try and like avoid like when you're out as a big group of people, like it annoys me, man. Yeah. For all of these reasons, like, do you know what I mean? When there's more than like two or three of you,
gets confused.
I'm like, oh man, I'll probably be the one that goes off on my own. To be fair, like in that situation, you know. I think it is like keeping people together, or even going somewhere. As soon as there's a load of you, it becomes way more complicated. Like even, do you remember that time in Glastonbury, like not long ago, when there was like that group of us, and then you all kind of mingle for a bit, and then like it was when we went and filmed the stuff for Figaro and Fababio.
For Figaro.
Den Montmartre.
Yes.
Montmartre.
Yeah.
And like and we were all outside, and it was like, and then it would be a bit and go on, and then we talking
like
for a bit,
and Manon, and then
like
Becky and Tom, and then me and you and Meg and
those situations
Emily.
stress me out, if I'm honest, because I'm like, oh, like, you know, what are we doing? Like,
don't even know where Toby and Manon went.
And at like festivals, I'd always call it the Penguin Festival Shuffle, because you'd all be in a group. No one would be like, you know, you just go wandering around and stuff, and it'd like annoy me a little bit. Do you know what I mean? I'd rather be off like on a meaningful quest with like a couple of my mates. You know what I mean? You'd
rather go on a good old Aragorn, Legolas and Gimli.
Yeah.
I think in general,
or a romantic stroll.
I think in general, I'll probably go to the front just because I like walking fast. I don't like walking fast, actually. That's a weird way to put it. I've interests and likes walking fast.
I like being at the front of the group.
No, I think I just naturally walk fast.
Yeah.
But so I think I'll probably usually be at the front, or at least near the front. But depending on, I might be with an exceptionally sprightly person that day who's just even more keen to be off than me. I don't know. But you know. A bit like Drew earlier. Do you know what I mean? He next thing, 1 minute he didn't want to run. Earlier on, it was really funny, everyone. Earlier on, basically, like we left something at the filming location, so we had to go back. We were almost back at the car at the time, so we decided to offload all of our gear so it'd be easier to get back. Once we'd offloaded everything, I was like pretty light because I'd gotten accumulated to all of the kit I was wearing. I was like, let's just jog back. Drew wasn't really feeling it. And then he decided, you know, he was like, okay, all right, guys, all right. I assume he didn't want to hold us up. So he was like, basically, we had to go downhill and uphill again. He was like, okay, I'll run downhill, but I ain't going to run uphill. And anyway, so he like started jogging. And then considering he was the one that said he didn't want to run, he just sprinted past me and just literally sprinted like all
off
the way
into the
down.
distance.
It was just like comical. It was like hilarious. But this is what I mean. Like every now and again, you'll come across someone that for whatever reason is extra sprightly.
Once you get going,
sprightly
on
in that moment.
Get going.
Yeah, if anything, Drew, I'd say like you are probably the person. I don't know if it's just because you're one of the people I walk with the most, but yeah, I would say like you are like very intermittent. You're very hot and cold. You have moments of like
I love how you noticed, because I'm like no,
but I'm just picturing in my head now. I've got all these little pictures. I can't remember, obviously I couldn't put dates on it or exact or tell you what we were doing, but images of us going up, say, Glastonbury tour, and then you have like little bursts of energy. You're like a little you're like a, I don't know, do you know what I mean? You're like almost like a little one of those little like dogs or something. Like a little chihuahua or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, like 1 minute they'll just be like, they almost look a bit lazy.
Yeah.
And they're like just almost like in slumber. And then suddenly like, and then they'll just freaking go off on one for a minute. And then you're like, whoa, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Because I feel like my energy is a bit more of an even keel.
Mm.
Like linear. Yeah, I guess it's like, it's like, you know, gradually ramp up and then it's like get to a stage and then it's like, you know.
I've definitely got a power band.
You're like,
I hit a certain rev count and then I'm going even thing and then I'm frazzled right out, got to change gear.
Yeah.
Then I'll stall.
I think that's like a good sum up, almost like maybe like for your personality in general. Do you know what I mean?
Isn't it weird that you could put like personality and directly
into
link
your
it to your
walking style? Yeah.
Crazy,
but even like when like we work out together sometimes, I would say like with you, your biggest thing is like you pick up like workout techniques pretty easy and stuff like that with you.
No consistency.
I always feel like I have to be like a bit more like, calm down a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Like, because it's like, because Yeah, because it's like, if you carry on like you are, we're going to get halfway through our workout and you might not be able to finish the rest of the workout.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you almost have to be quite methodical. Like, so you want to make sure that the moment, your last rep of your last set is the moment that you can't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
And you have to be almost like quite methodical with that, whereas you almost like a little bit of like a bull in a china shop. Do you mean it's like you get all this excitement, enthusiasm, and oh yeah, I can do this and I can do that. And then you get halfway through, and then you're like tripping. You're like tripping because of how just like mentally just like tired you are. Interesting.
Yeah.
I've never really thought about this. Yeah, but that is almost like interesting. How much can you tell about someone's personality by how they walk and how they work out?
It's all linked, man. It's all related.
Yeah.
All working from the same brain.
Yeah, man. Oh, spinny.
So spinny.
Deep, man. Deep. How did we even get into that conversation?
About
Woman walking
oh yeah,
slow.
quickfire fact. All right, so I'll do another quickfire fact now.
My explanation then was awful, by the way. I just went, woman
but
walking
it worked,
somewhere.
didn't it? It worked.
Yeah, we got there in the end,
Right.
so
Fair
full
play.
circle again.
Full circle. This is almost like a fact of respect, a fact of sacrifice, a fact of acknowledgement. Did you know that not a single engineer made it off the Titanic? They all decided to stay so they could keep the power on while everyone else escaped. And as a result, they are all to this day in the Titanic. At the
Very
bottom of the sea.
respectable. Very respectable.
When the Titanic went down, she took with her the lives of many brave people, including her entire complement of engineers under the control of Joseph Bell, the chief engineer officer. His staff consisted of 24 engineers, 6 electrical engineers, 2 boiler makers, a plumber, and his clerk. In addition, many of the firemen and coal trimmers were lost. Joseph Bell and your many engineers, you are friends of the pod.
Friends of the pod. Friends of the pod. Friends of the pod. Friends of the pod. I think that takes a very strong will, doesn't it? Because a lot of those people, like, they would have had nothing to do with the fact that the ship was sinking.
Well,
just
no.
because they were working on it doesn't mean that it was their fault in any way.
But they
so
were the only
selfless.
people that could keep the lights on.
Yeah.
Or
And there's the thing, if not, they would have been in the pitch black in the middle of the Atlantic, freezing Atlantic.
so much
at
more
night.
panic. You know?
I mean, yeah.
Imagine how
Mm.
many lives they saved by doing that. You know,
I bet probably like the majority of the people that were saved because of that, I imagine. But yeah, I mean, nothing but respect. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's like different people I think would have different opinions on this, but I think, in my opinion at least, I think, so this is just what I think. I might be completely wrong. I think that in moments of emergency like that, I think even people that might be anxious in their day-to-day life and even maybe fearful of death, I think that people would actually surprise themselves at how selfless, even with their lives they are, probably would be in that situation. I think that when you're sitting around, say at home, in the comfort of your own home, conceptualizing these things and thinking about, like, you know, life or death situations, fear and anxiety creep into you and you think, I'd hate that to happen. But I think when you're in a moment, locked in a moment, there's so much adrenaline and there's so many things larger than just your life at stake.
Yeah.
I think often you probably would be surprised at how easily you can become a hero rather than rather than just solely focused on preserving your own life. At least I'd like to think so, and I think
that's a very positive view on the world. I think that's the good way to look at it.
I think there is a lot of evidence of that. I think. I mean, how many of those guys? I mean, I'm sure. Surely not every single one was just a natural born hero. All of those engineers. Do you know what I mean? And like, I mean, that Joseph Bell guy. Did he have like such strong control over them that he could force them to stay? I doubt it.
Or
in an
they were
emergency
like such a
situation
good
like
team.
that,
Like they all relied on each other, and they knew that. And if one person would have not, then that would have broke the camaraderie of the team and the efforts. You know, that maybe
but it's
that's
like,
part of it.
Think in that situation as well. Like, say in a situation like the Titanic going down, I think there were many women, children. I'm sure there were babies.
Kate Winslet.
There was Kate Winslet, Leonardo, DiCaprio, King Theoden, you know, because he's Bernard. Was it Bernard Hill? He played the captain. Yeah.
Went down with the ship as well.
Yeah. That's it. So not only did he, you know, manage to lead a great charge at the Battle of the Pelennor Fields, but he also went down honourably with the Titanic. What a leader! What a leader! Bernard Hill, you're another friend of the pod, my friend. But yeah, that's what I would like to think.
I think there would definitely be people that would look for an escape.
Oh yeah,
but I think
there's always the one or two.
Yeah,
but I actually think the majority. Because this is what I'm getting at, though. I think, let's face it, I don't think the majority of people are naturally day to day born like quote unquote heroes or heroic personalities. But I think in
natural
moments
day to day
like
situations don't call for that.
That's true, But I'm talking about even like people that wouldn't even ever go out of their way to be like that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Totally.
But I think in situations like this, when you have no choice in the matter, I actually think that people in a good way will surprise themselves.
Yeah,
I think other people
in an unpopular opinion, maybe not actually. Now that I say it, I think that's probably one of the best ways to go. Is by doing something selfless.
100%. Because you're dying for something, and you're dying for something greater than yourself. You're dying for so that if you're dying so that
others may live.
10 other people can live, and say like 5 of those are children under the age of like 10, and maybe even a couple of babies. Mate, that's you can die. Like almost like with joy in a weird way. I know that sounds weird. Do you know what I mean? But like you die, like you're going in such an honourable way that when you hear back of like old tales of like ancient civilizations, you watch something like the Vikings, they're on about an honourable death, how they know it will get them to Valhalla, and pretty much all religions had that same thing. I'm not a religious guy myself, but I still feel like that applies.
Yeah.
You because your life still has meaning, and the impact that you leave on the world still has meaning, and the way that you're remembered has meaning to the ones you leave behind, to your family, to your friends.
In the moment, because obviously all of those concepts will flash by in a split second, but you've got this like inner compass of knowing within yourself of what is the right thing to do and what is the wrong thing almost to do. And I think you can trust in. If you can trust in what is the right thing to do, like you will do something that helps people, or that you will do.
I think as well. I think you can make it an easy decision.
Yeah,
the decision is
by
to
just
do
acting
it
on
or to not.
Yeah,
and it's like you very quickly know what the right decision is, and there's a difference between the right decision and necessarily like what the selfish decision is. Or maybe I don't even know if selfish is the right way to describe it. I don't know if that's like judgmental or harsh. Do you know what I mean? Because obviously, it's the individual's choice.
No one wants to be put in that situation, do they?
Yeah, no, of course. And obviously, like, it's natural to want to preserve your own life. But I also think, look greater than yourself.
Yeah.
Like...
And it's just crazy, like, the power that those split-second decisions have. Like, mate, the other day, this was like with an animal rather than a human being, but it made literally this video made me cry, man.
Right?
Because I was literally like there was this little boy,
right?
And he was on his front lawn with his dog. It was like this Alsatian,
right?
And he goes running out and there's like a road and stuff, and you could see this dog like happily like jumping around this boy, you could see like the love between them, this was like his owner or his owner's kid, and just like, and then he goes running out, and then you see him literally like puppy pouncing and stuff, and then the kid turns around and like just stops and goes still like that, and then just from like 200 yards down the street, this black dog just comes running straight for the kid, and in the split second you see the Alsatian knock the kid over, like literally jump up onto his own and knock him over, and then just go on the dog and and spin him over. But then he like turns around and sees the kid, and then he goes and chases it up. And all of this stuff happened in like a split second. But someone broke down the video after and said like all of these things that this dog did like to protect it, and then covering that
dog
part.
is a hero.
So much loyalty.
And I was like, oh my god,
that's love,
like that love and that split second reaction. And one moment you see the difference of him like happy wagging his tail to all of a sudden this action that was totally protective, totally like honourable, and that's it. And I was like, it made me cry because it was like how intelligent, how much emotional intelligence that animal had for that human being, and I was like,
and that willingness to put yourself in harm's way.
Yeah,
you know?
literally, and it was like,
I think that's a big thing,
man.
isn't it? Like willingness to put yourself in harm's way. I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah,
But that's it. But it's trusting in that instinct. Yeah, that gut. That
I think this is what I'm getting at partly. I think if you trust in your instinct, more often than not, you will do the right thing.
Yeah.
When you start overthinking it and overcoming it, I think you're more likely to do something selfish or wrong.
Yeah.
Or make an error in judgment.
Yeah.
If you trust in your instinct, I think more often than not, people will do by the right thing. I mean, what that dog did in that situation.
Yeah,
was obviously
exactly.
Protect the boy.
Pure instinct.
Because that boy was, do you know what I mean, the same way that those men on the Titanic could have a positive impact and save lives of the crew, and they knew it, the same way that is the case, the dog knows in its head, subconsciously, or maybe even consciously, I don't know, that it can prevent or at least minimalise the damage of that child, and that if the dog doesn't do something, then that child could potentially die, or if not, have like maybe life-changing injury.
And how we literally like jumped up and pushed the kid out of the way.
Yeah,
I was like, what even is that? You know?
That's crazy, man. Yeah,
and then you
crazy.
see the mum run over and the kid and go and pick up the kid and jump straight onto her. But the dog's like kind of circling around him and that. I was like, man, hero. Pure hero.
That's amazing, man. What a dog. Whichever dog is in that video, German Shepherd, you're a friend of the pod. Many friends of the pod today. It's a thankful episode.
Making friends.
We're making friends left, right and centre today, folks. Yeah. I feel like, you know, it's like maybe we haven't finished everything that needs to be said on that, but at the same time, I'm lost for words.
Trust your instincts.
I think you are right. I think you kind of covered that aspect of if you do trust your instincts, most of the time, it's going to be right because your brain knows what is the right decision to make.
And as I said, I think that make it
Exactly,
easy for yourself when you're put in a situation like that. Maybe like don't overthink it. There's a quick thing: do it or don't do it.
Yeah,
what are you going to do? Quick.
That's the decision.
And answer quickly.
Yeah,
answer your brain quickly.
Be decided.
Be decisive. Yeah. Be decided. Be decisive. That's another track that's coming out soon. Be decided. Be decisive. We had to sort of like rush our Mystery Mondays a little bit today.
I'm sorry. I forgot it was my turn.
I mean, to be honest, man, maybe I should have reminded you.
No, you shouldn't have. I literally should have remembered that it was my go.
I have found quickly it's a mystery that I've looked into before. So I do know a thing or two about it.
Nice.
I know a thing or two about this.
But I haven't like prepared it as well as I normally do. So I think what we're going to do is, because it's sort of like quite rushed, if I do it this week and then you do it next week, Drew.
Yeah, man.
And then I'll just do it again the week after, and then we can get back, because then we're back into our normal cycle. And just like ladies, when you're with your friends, it's all nice to be following the same cycle. Okay. So here on the pod, we want to adhere to that. Oh, what's this? Mysterious music ravages of time. Don't think we've played this one before. What's this one like? Oh,
very mysterious.
Yeah. So the mystery I want to talk about this week is let me find out the exact name for it before I butcher it. It's called like the Beast of the Land Between the Lakes. And I remember I heard this story ages ago. I'm going to read out about it. There was one story in particular, I heard about it, and I thought it was compelling. And the reason I found it compelling, because it was like a witness statement of this event, one of the events I'm going to talk about. And normally, I would probably think a story that is this far out would be rubbish, essentially. But the thing that I think is compelling about it is apparently certain people at the scene actually did die.
Whoa.
So there's this one witness that was at the scene that has their story of what happened. The story is completely outlandish and absolutely mental, but the very fact that people did die at the scene obviously makes it completely compelling. Now, maybe the person that was left alive, the one person, maybe they just...
So only one person was
survived,
able to be a witness to it?
And he or she...
Yeah, it was a he. It was a he.
Is there a thing that like he might have killed the people, or...
No, there's no theory about that. There's no theory about that. It would have been impossible because at the time he was a boy.
Oh,
he was a child at the time.
Right, cool.
And there were several people died at this scene that was subsequently obviously found by the police. and there's
Unless
only one
he
way.
was Chucky.
Now you could say, now you could say that maybe, children's, and I know this obviously having a child of my own, and any parents out there will know this, and I think we can all sort of remember, but I think it's more gobsmacking when you're actually a parent yourself, because you almost like, wow, it's almost like makes you remember how much of a vivid imagination you have when you're a kid. But kids have vivid imaginations, like really vivid, like more than I think I think we can remember back to having, those crazy imaginations, but it's mad how vivid your children's imaginations are. They can like play out fantasies in real time.
Yeah.
And the reason obviously why a lot of them kids have like bad nightmares and like terrors and stuff is because to them, when they're having a nightmare, or not even when they're having a nightmare, when they're like awake, say in their room, and they're thinking of something scary, whatever that thing is that is scary to that child, it's almost like it's so scary that it might as well be happening.
Yeah.
That's how vivid the imagination is. It's almost like some crazy like
So it was tripping, man.
hallucination. Yeah, that's how powerful kids' imaginations are.
I can definitely remember being a kid and like every nightmare was like, whoa, that happened.
Yeah. And apparently it's almost like an evolutionary thing that happens naturally, because between the age of 2 and 10, your imagination works overtime, because it's really important as a part of human development to be aware of danger. So your brain is hyper aware of danger, and it's trying to categorize and figure out.
Definitely not before 2, is it?
No, it's the opposite. It's the opposite. They can't even conceive it. But they're trying to conceptualize and almost like categorize every possible danger in the world, and then make like a note of it or a file of it. And if we didn't do this, then think our ancestors would have just like walked into the den of bears, into like or like
That's where fear is real,
seen
man.
a predator.
It's got a good thing for it. Like
It's got an evolutionary benefit. Or think about like there are a lot of predators are nocturnal, for example. That's why a lot of people are afraid of the dark, or they have night terrors. It's because it's this feeling that something might come and get you in the dark. Now it's nowadays obviously we think of it like horror movies, or people always watch a horror movie and then like the antagonist of the horror movie will be stuck in your head, so you'll be afraid of them. Traditionally, the reason why we're afraid of the dark and we're afraid of things like that is because things like all cat species are nocturnal. If you live in a continent with cats, then
they're gonna get eaten.
Yeah. Cats will hunt humans happily. They'll come and get you in the middle of the night. Same bears aren't traditionally nocturnal, but they sometimes they might come and get you. Other species as well. There are other nocturnal predators that might come and get you while you're asleep. So you need to almost be like alert for that. So there's an evolutionary benefit of why we're like this. But back to my original point, there's one witness to the story that I remember hearing that really compelled me. It was a child. So make up your own mind about it. I did think it was really interesting, even whether it's like even if it was like this crazy story that this child just invented in his head. And I don't mean that in like a way that I think he made it up. Maybe the kid's brain, you know what I mean, made it
trying to avoid the trauma.
Yeah, maybe
that's
maybe to make like almost like a fantasy.
Yeah, you can
more dealable.
You can get forget memories, block memories, but I can imagine you could also
change them,
or try and fit them into your sphere of knowledge and understanding.
Maybe make
you able to deal with them.
Yeah, make it more like a book or like a movie, so that it somehow, even though it's just as
how
brutal,
can you relate to it? Yeah.
It's more fantastical. So it's like a way of your brain dealing with it, rather than it being like this, almost like this horrible psychotic event. But anyway, this is the beast of the land between the lakes. This is about a creature that is said to resemble a gigantic half man, half wolf that walks on 2 legs and has 5-fingered human hands ending in vicious claws. Now,
whoa,
sounds like a bear to me.
I've always think that like cryptozoology is very interesting. So cryptozoology is just, if zoology is the study of animals, cryptozoology is the study of animals that may or may not exist, or creatures that hasn't been documented by science, but that people claim to have witnessed. So like Bigfoot would be like a classic one. And just to say, like, I'm not saying that I think this is real, but I'm just saying this is an interesting story. And if anything else, it's an interesting story. But it's got some real mysteries mixed in with it. So apparently it's a half wolf, half man. The interesting thing about things like this is it's not described as a werewolf. Apparently this is something different, which I think is interesting. Because surely
I'm almost imagining literally like human arms, human legs, and then just the torso and head of a wolf.
Yeah, this creature is said to stand over 7 feet tall with massive crushing jaws and glowing eyes. Many people apparently have witnessed this creature.
Whoa.
But a bit the same way that many people apparently have witnessed Bigfoot, but there isn't any concrete evidence.
Right. It does sound like a bear. I think you were right.
I think a lot of the time.
Yeah.
There are several legends attached to the beast. One story begins with a Native American creature with the ability to shapeshift. Another legend speaks of a man who left Europe in the 1800s to settle between the rivers. This man supposedly possessed a disease that turned him mad after nightfall. The disease was believed to be genetic and was passed from parent to child over the years. They remained in seclusion, never going to school or having the desire to socialise with others until one day when they went silent. Many believed that the family had died. An investigation in the early 1900s revealed that their homestead was vacant and abandoned. Early accounts from French explorers and traders in the region speak of their being warned of the shadowy presence of what the French called the loup-garou by Shawnee fur traders. A later legend claims that the monster is the spirit of a shape-shifting Shawnee shaman, so Shawnee is like a Native American tribe, who was killed in wolf form by the inhabitants of his village for abusing his shamanic powers. His spirit is said to still walk the woods in search of revenge. Accounts of the creature from the early days of American expansion into Kentucky tell of hunters disappearing in the woods never to be seen again, and of strange, unnatural howls that echoed through the forests at nighttime. At this time, bison still roamed wild in Kentucky, and hunters would sometimes encounter mutilated carcasses of these massive animals lying half-eaten in the deep grass, their throats ripped open by massive claws. Even now, with the efforts to restore the bison to Kentucky, the rangers and herd managers occasionally find calves missing. After one of the young goes missing, the herd is reputedly spooked for days, sticking together in close formation that the animals use to protect themselves from predators. Now, yet again, while this obviously sounds pretty spooky and pretty, crazy, let's face it, there's a lot of, there are bears and wolves and stuff, and so I don't know why, the natural thing wouldn't be, it's just one of them. But, anyway, there have been several reports of close encounters with the creature in modern times. One of the most frightening of these happened to a group of Murray State University students who were camping in the land between the lakes in 1973. A group of young men were enjoying the woods on a warm spring weekend, sitting around a fire built by their VW microbus and just generally having a fine time. As the evening began drawing in, one of the students went off into the woods to answer the call of nature. When he returned to the campsite, he told his friends he'd felt like something was watching him and that he had heard something sniffing in the woods. His friends said he just heard a wild hog or some sort of other animal. The student said he'd never heard anything like it before, and he grew increasingly nervous as the darkness gathered. As the night grew dark, the group started to hear the shuffling and snuffling sound of something large moving in the fallen leaves around their camp. It seemed to be circling the campsite, moving incredibly swiftly. The boys of the group began to become anxious. They shined their flashlights into the woods in the direction of the footsteps, but saw nothing. And then, the howling began. It was a wild, insane howling, apparently. Like a wolf, but much louder than any wolf could ever be, with an unnatural, blood-curdling quality that made the howling sound almost like mocking laughter. That sounds pretty sketchy. It seemed to come from everywhere around them at once. First one side of the circle of light around the fire, and then from the other. Soon, the terrified campers began to catch glimpses of a pair of glowing red eyes as they ran past in the dark. The terrified boys retreated into their Volkswagen bus and wisely decided not to stick around to get a better view. Tearing down the road, they soon saw that they were being pursued, and they said that a massive shadowy figure was racing behind them, barely visible in the bus's taillights. As the bus slowed to take a corner, they felt a massive jolt, and then it seemed as if something was holding the Volkswagen back. Giving it everything they had, they broke free and tore out of the forest and didn't stop until they were back on the Murray State campus. Back on the campus, they found 4 deep gashes, like claw marks torn into the metal of the engine compartment cover at the back of the bus. Another widely circulated story tells of the discovery of a bloody scene inside the motorhome of a family camping in the area in the 1980s. This is a story that I heard. Police are said to have found the horribly mutilated bodies of a visiting family lying in their blood-soaked motorhome, and the half-eaten body of the family's young daughter lodged in a nearby tree.
Oh man, that's savage.
The bodies are all said to have had distinctive, massive claw marks. This incident was supposedly covered up by the authorities so as not to damage the tourist industry in the then economically fragile region. That's the story that I heard of.
Was it that the one with the boy survived?
Yeah. So that last one. So apparently there was a survivor of that story, and he tells about the cover up, and he tells actually about his story of what happened. And his story of what happened is out of this world, which is why obviously it's very hard to believe it. But it's absolutely intriguing nonetheless. So he said that obviously, you know, that yep, he wasn't with his family, he was with his friend's family. So they went, so that was, I guess, like the friend of the girl, I'm not sure 100%. They went into the motorhome, they went into the forest, you know, have like a little camp, sort of out in the wild in their motorhome. And he said that they were basically like attacked by a creature. He said he was in the motorhome when he heard this commotion happening. And I can't remember exactly what it was. I think it was like the dad that was with him, he had like a shotgun, but it wasn't a shotgun with normal shotgun rounds. It was like these like more gentle pellets that were made to like kill smaller animals or something like that. So it like wouldn't be like able to like say kill you, but it would really hurt you.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So I think he said he was in the motorhome. He heard like a commotion outside. He said that when he went out, there was this like creature, like the one that we've heard described, that was out there with like the girl and the man, and then it was like making its way towards the girl. And then when obviously the dad saw this, he got his shotgun. Obviously, sadly, didn't have real rounds in it, but had these other pellets. And he said he like shot it several times until it fell over. Apparently, obviously, it's laid there for a minute, but then got up and then attacked the man. Started like savagely like ripping the man apart and stuff. Obviously, everyone was going crazy, like freaking out. And the boy was like in the doorway of the motorhome, didn't know what to do, and he hid under the motorhome. And he said that what happened is after that, he heard that the woman, the mum, was in the motorhome ahead, like over the top of him, essentially, like shrieking and being like, "Oh my god!" Like blah, like all this crazy commotion. And he said that obviously he couldn't see her, but he could hear her. And he said he could still see that the one was like, you know, he could see the legs, the feet of the one out there. And he said that one of the things that then really freaked him out and surprised him even more was that something then smashed through the window, the other side of the motorhome, and went into that. And then he heard like growling and shrieking and screaming and stuff. And then like the sounds of what it'd be like to someone to be like ripped apart. What he did then was, because he was so scared, he realised that he could like, there was enough
gap in the engine compartment.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
He pulled himself up because he was like terrified, and what he was scared of was that something was going to look under and then see him. So he pulled himself up and he just prayed to God that like nothing was going to like see him or like, yeah, whatever. So he pulled himself right up into the engine compartment and like hid in there and just held on for dear life. And he basically said that he like sat there like with his eyes shut, like absolutely terrified, while he heard all of them get killed. And just literally he just like stayed there, terrified, trying to be as silent as possible, until like they were like, you know, you could hear them like sniffing around and stuff and like that for like, afterwards, and like, and then eventually they just walked off. And he said he literally like stayed there for like 6 hours afterwards just because he was so terrified. And eventually like went down, left the woods, and it wasn't even that far from like the main road. So he said he made it, he like ran to the main road and then was just like walking along the main road and like managed to hitchhike down. Obviously looked like mental, and then he was taken to the local police station. And then he said that once he was at the police station, he was put under questioning, and then they took him back to the site. And apparently when he back to the site, there was like freaking like government officials everywhere.
Really?
Whoa.
Apparently it was like cordoned off. There was like FBI, CIA, like government officials everywhere. Some like weird like strange men in like suits came and like talked to him, and then basically like told him not to talk about it. And apparently he didn't talk about it until he was like in his 20s.
That's madness, isn't it?
Damn.
Yeah,
now
how
old he was when that actually happened.
Yeah, he'd be like, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I will probably be able to find out for next week's show.
Old enough for his parents to let him go motor home in with another family.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, the idea that it's like a coordinated attack, like smashing through the windows and That is quite
and also
creepy.
how it was covered up. That doesn't just seem like we're gonna
bear attack.
save the tourist industry. That sounds like, if there was loads of really top official people there, they might have known about this thing or something. Or...
What makes it extra interesting as well is that there are loads of forest rangers in the area that completely corroborate the now man's story.
Oh, okay.
And say that they have been like approached into like being quiet about like dodgy goings on in the area. Like, they're not told that about, like don't talk about this specifically, but they're basically told like, don't talk about weird stuff that goes on in the woods. And there's like a quote from one of the forest rangers in the area. So yeah, apparently, what does it say here? Evidence for the beast between the lakes continues to this day. Experienced hunters shy away from the area, but sportsmen who are new enough to the area to scoff at the legends often come home with tales of feeling as if they are being stalked in the woods and of extreme terror. Some say they have found deep holes, like nests often found dug in the woods with tufts of long, coarsely textured greyish-brown fur within them. Several experienced rangers in the park are routinely asked what the strange howling is that is experienced sometimes at night. One of the rangers has gone on record to say, "I live in West Kentucky, 30 minutes from the LBL. That's a lake, beast, whatever it's called. I have tried hunting this thing more than once. It was Moss Creek where that family was butchered by this thing. That's when they put up a gate there and banned overnight camping, and it closed down at sunset. The excuse they gave me at the time was to preserve tourism. Preserve tourism is that there was a random stabbing one night. 2 cops talked to a girl at a well-known gas station type store and were regularly in there, and they told her about what they saw. No bodies or body parts, but shredded bloody clothes. Some of a kid on the ground and some trees. Blood everywhere. The girl told me this personally, and I will leave it at that. This happened in the late 80s. I have talked to old-timers in Grand River's cadets. They all basically say the same thing, that this creature is real. Some wouldn't talk to me at all. I'll stop the ramble, but I'd be glad to discuss it with anyone." Yeah. That's pretty much it for the mystery of what was it called? The lake between lakes monster. Yeah,
That is cool.
but I do think it's like, while I'm not saying that I think it's like this crazy freaking werewolf type creature, I do think it's a compelling story. And I think the fact that what that young lad experienced, mixed with the fact that like there are like actual forest rangers that are like saying that they've been approached by people to like be quiet about weird stuff that goes on in the woods, that like basically like loads and loads of people say that like weird howling goes on and have had weird experiences. I do think that is compelling. It seems like something weird's going on.
Yeah,
It's
Something done it.
It's just
Something
something.
happened.
So talking about that, do you guys see that footage? And I actually think it's one of the most compelling pieces of footage I've ever actually seen on that was actually like put on like just straight up news. Do you see that weird footage of that like freaking creature in that armadillo zoo? Armadillo in Texas?
Nope.
And they caught like what it looks like they caught like a werewolf on camera.
Whoa.
And
what's
what's even more compelling is it's inside an animal enclosure.
What?
So I can get the footage up.
Yeah,
It's on
get it
YouTube.
up, man. I want to see it.
So there's a zoo in Armadillo, Texas. Texas. That's the name of it.
Texas Armadillo.
Texas Armadillo.
Texas Armadillo. Yeah, it's called Armadillo in Texas, and it's got a zoo there. And then the CCTV of the zoo, one night, caught this creature. I can't remember what animal that it was the pen in, but it's almost like you're implying like there's something got in there to like hunt the creature that's in there or something. And it's, I was going to say broad daylight. Obviously, the CCTV footage is at night, but it really, really clear footage.
Caught in full play.
And then apparently the security guard was observing the footage the next day, just like checking the CCTV tapes overnight to make sure nothing weird happened. I was just like, what the hell is that in that enclosure? But mate, yeah, and it's been on the news and everything, and it's like 100% legit. So like, if I just type in armadillo, like werewolf or something.
Another thing that was quite cool that we haven't spoke about. Did you see? I saw a post recently about how many different UFO sightings there's been in like the last year, and it was like something like 510 US official like USA sightings in the last year.
Wow.
Or something like that. Like that's coming from like the army or something like that. That have like all reported all these things. I haven't actually looked into it too much, but I just saw it pop up and was like, that'd be a cool thing to research. So Maybe we'll speak about that in a future
man.
week, future ep.
Show.
Yeah, so this is it. So I'll play like a news clip for it.
Caught on camera, a mystery in Texas. What is this strange figure that people are trying to figure out?
Oh wait, man, let me turn off the music, guys.
I thought that
I
was
thought,
part of
yeah,
it.
so did I. I was like, man, the zoo, the news have gone all out.
Yeah, so there's aliens now, there's monkeypox. What about Wolfman? Yeah, this is really, you guys, sometimes this job is just too much. It's trying me today. Here's some video, though.
This one is
Yep.
trying you today?
Yeah, it's trying me. This is
Okay.
from Amarillo, Texas. It shows an unknown figure walking around a perimeter fence at the Amarillo Zoo. The creature is wolf-like,
Oh,
I
sorry, the
guess.
perimeter fence.
To me,
So
sort
it
of looks
wasn't
like
inside.
the Sonic before they, had to fix it. But anyway, it was spotted at around 1 a.m. in May 21st. Apparently, there was no sign of entry into the zoo. No animals or people were harmed. The city is now encouraging people to submit ideas for what they think it might be, saying, quote, "We just want the Amarillo community to have fun with this."
No.
And it's the internet, so good luck with that not backfiring, but we'll keep you
The
posted.
legs are bent really
your
weirdly,
thought,
aren't they?
Pedro,
They
that was
look like-
Chupacabra.
Yeah, Chupacabra.
I liked it almost as much as how well you pronounced that one.
You did really well, though. I just like, if it's something serious, I get have fun with it, but I
Yeah.
also want to know what that is.
If there are aliens, I think that like the Amarillo Zoo is exactly where they would end up.
We can make a movie about it.
Yeah.
I hate to break the news to you guys. It's a man with a headdress.
Correct.
It's a teenager.
Ah, Vera
Tiptoeing.
case.
Yep,
Thank
yep.
you. Now, don't miss.
But yeah, sorry.
yeah.
So I can't remember. I don't know why I thought that the story was inside an animal enclosure. So yeah, they said it was around the perimeter fence. So it was like walking around the outside of the zoo.
Still cool.
But I do think that's like a slightly weird.
I would have liked to have seen the video.
moving, yeah.
To like how it moved and
Yeah,
stuff.
me
you
too.
know?
I-
Is this the way to Amarillo?
Is this the
probably
way
dancing
to
to.
Amarillo?
I'm gonna eat that Amarillo.
I really, yeah, it's a shame. I wonder why there isn't actually just footage of it outright walking. Do you know what I mean? I'm a bit frustrated about that.
Yeah, that
But
was
I
pretty
do
cool, though.
think it's weird footage, isn't it?
Enticing.
It's enticing.
Definitely a strange shape.
Okay, we're talking about something weird.
Something so
Unidentified
weird.
aerial objects we talked about earlier, but now we've got something else, Carson. It's a mysterious phenomenon. Part creature
Yeah.
seen in Texas.
So that's at the Amarillo Zoo, and they came across this weird image while looking at some
I do think it looks
security
pretty
footage
cool.
recently.
It's
It was
like-
captured
Two
in the
faces
middle of the
almost.
night. It was back
The
in
one
May
that's
in
like
the
looking
city
at the
about
camera and one that's looking.
and identifying.
I do think that's one of the things that I find
Is it a
compelling about
person
it.
with a-
One of the things that I find compelling about it is that, like, when you look at the picture, you're like scanning it and you're trying to make sense of it, and I can't quite make sense of it. Do you know what I mean? I think I can sort of see the legs and the arms a bit, or at least one of the arms.
Who doesn't have HD CCTV nowadays? I would have thought. Do you know what I mean? Like, with
I'd like to
cameras
see
and
the
stuff.
actual live.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I wonder why.
the
I
movie.
wonder why it's not, or is it literally it just takes photos like every.
Maybe
Maybe.
it's like motion sensitive. Do you know what I mean? So it's like if something walks, it takes a picture.
Whatever it is, I hope they get a better one now.
Yeah, yeah. Because I've just had a quick look, and it doesn't seem like there's any long footage.
video
and it seems like every picture that there is the same picture, which would lead me to think that it's just that one picture that's been circulated amongst the media and stuff. But very interesting nonetheless.
Interessante.
Very interesting.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to leave you for this week. You have been listening to Pandora's Box. We love and appreciate every single one of y'all.
Every single one.
Keep an eye out for our for the Tale of Jimmy O'Malley Part 2. I'll let you know now. The track's going to be called "To Stand Vigil with the Visceral Cause." Brackets. The Tale of Jimmy O'Malley Part 2. Oh yeah. I said we're doing the video right now. It's not quite finished yet, but hopefully in a couple of weeks, something like that, it will be ready to bring to y'all. Yes, have a great week, everyone. We love you. Have a good one. Cheers, folks. See you next week.
Peace.
Ta-ta.